Welcome to Stargate SG-1 for the first time, still not a Star Trek podcast. My name is Jeff Akin, and I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the first time.
Hey, I am Brent Allen. I'm watching Stargate SG-1 for the 47th time, but for the first time, I am looking for what Stargate is trying to teach us. You know, those lessons that hold up a mirror to society, give us hope things can be better in the future, or just tell us, Jeff, you and I have had lots of these conversations lately. How can we be better people to one another?
Maybe we'll have some of those conversations today as we watch the 8th episode of the 3rd season of SG-1, Demons. Last week when you said this is what we're going to watch, I guessed that this is going to be kind of our first foray into some Sokar stuff. Sokar is apparently like the devil, and there's going to see some of his demons, and we're going to start setting him up as, I don't know, the new Apophis, as it were.
The new Apophis.
Yeah, Apophis is Apophis and Sokar is Sokar, but he's going to fill the story role.
He's the new bad guy, is what you're saying.
The new big bad, yeah. And so we'll see. Why don't you give us a little bit of the details on Demons?
Well, very few details for this episode. August 13th, 1999 is when it premiered. This is the 8th episode of season 3. Two things, actually, I do want to point out. This is a Peter DeLuise directed episode, which means, yes, there is a cameo. Jeff, I'm actually going to tell you who he is in this one. We're just going to have to look for him. He is titled as Screaming Villager. So let's look for the Screaming Villager. We'll try to point out Peter DeLuise. We're going to look for it together. I've never noticed the Peter DeLuise cameos except for in a handful of episodes. I didn't know that he basically does it every time he directs. That's new information to me. Here's the other thing. Last week, we watched Dead Man Switch. Flash Gordon. Flash Gordon's there. Did you notice he had a little scar over his eyebrow?
I sure did. Yeah, I like that.
Okay. So apparently they thought it was so cool or whatever. In today's episode, just look for it. Jack is going to get a scar that is that exact same kind of scar.
Really?
Now, what I cannot confirm is that they did it because of Flash Gordon.
Like, Flash was so cool, you got to do this.
Now, Richard Dean Anderson does not have a scar in his eyebrow.
Okay.
But he will something will happen to him today that will give him a little cut right above his eye, and he will carry this as part of his makeup for the rest of the show.
Okay.
Which is basically like, I think it's just they sat in the makeup trailer and thought, like, yeah, this makes Jack look badass, so let's do it.
We got to toughen him up a little bit.
So be on the lookout for the scar, or for the cut. Actually, I guess we're going to see today. That is coming up. No spoilers as to what actually happens or how he gets it or what goes on. Bangs his head into a pipe or something else. Jeff. So Jeff, with that is all I have. That means it's time to go watch an episode, pal. Let's go do it. Hey, listen, if you guys are here for the first time, first of all, welcome. You guys are amazing. You're awesome. We love you guys. What's about to happen here is Jeff and I are going to go watch this episode right now. It's not like we watched this episode prior to hitting record. Nope. We pressed record and now we're going to go watch it. But we're not pressing pause on record, Jeff. We're going to keep recording because we're going to record our reactions. Jeff's reactions, my reactions to watching this episode together. If you're on YouTube, you're going to catch that reaction video. If you guys want the full, unedited, behind-the-scenes version of how we put all this together and what happens, go over to our Patreon account. That's patreon.com/Bye Nerds. And you guys can catch all the fun details of how you can sign up to receive those as well.
If you're listening on a podcasting app, you're going to gate into the future. You're going to catch us on the other side where I'm going to share my first-time reactions. Brent's going to talk about any of the sci-fi messages he found, and that's going to be, in about 45 seconds from now. Brent, why don't you kick this off? Demons.
Chevron 7 locked.
Well, Jeff, welcome back. Welcome back to you. I want to welcome back the audio listeners who have just gated into the future. They have joined us. You and I have just watched the episode Demons. You for the very first time, me for the 47th time. But you, my friend, take us through it, your very first watch through. What about it?
Right out of the gate. Get it? Right out of the gate?
Oh!
Didn't even mean to do that. Wow. Well, right out of the gate, I was pretty excited about this one because, as you pointed out, very early on in this journey on Stargate SG-1, I was like, hey, do we ever get like Christianity in this whole thing? Do we get the Goulds playing that? And this was such a cool take on this. There was a line I think Jack said where he's like, oh, they're not playing God, they're playing the devil. So it's not like we're going to have a Gould as Jesus or as God or even as Moses, you know, or Elijah or anything like that. None of the big names. Let's flip it, right? And just like let's be Satan. And they straight out called Sokar Satan. That's who he was.
Yeah.
It's a really cool idea for I don't know, playing that up. And I think it's just, I think it's brave of the series to do that. So far, we've seen it take on dead cultures and dead religions for the most part. I'm sure there's people out there still practicing them, and, you know, more power to them. But this is a very modern, thriving religion in the world, and they're going to take it on. Now, they took it on in the medieval sense of it, which I think was a great mechanism for them to tell a very scathing like side of Christianity that arguably was some of the worst expression of the Christian faith in history was during that time, used to do horrible things to people. And we saw that happen in this one. But I enjoyed this episode for that, right? Like, let's take a critical look at a moment in time, you know, that still reverberates into the present for us.
Yeah.
When I was watching this, I really thought that there's a version of my recap, a version of you going into the sci-fi messages where we do what we've done quite a bit in the on our Babylon 5 podcast and start diving into how the Christian faith was displayed, how it was shown, you know, in a way that's not relevant anymore or whatever. But I don't know that that's really, I don't know if that's the value in this one. I think it was neat. Like, I want to call it was neat they did that. I hope that we get more, you know, of like, for being a monotheistic religion, there's quite a pantheon in Christianity, you know, of things to pull on. You got the angels, and, you know, they even invoked Saint Michael the Archangel in this one. And stuff. So I hope we see more of that, you know, from the Gould. I think it would be very interesting. But all in all, like, okay, there's the Christian thing. It happened. I loved the casting of the canon.
Oh, yeah.
Through the very end, the dude who played the canon was, you just wanted to punch him in the face the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He just played that whole, like, especially when he says to Simon, he's like, you need to stop asking so many questions, kid. And he's eating, you know, that whole, like, just.
Let me ask you this. And this is me getting a little real. Folks that have been around this show, have been around us for quite a while. You've heard several soliloquies, mostly by me, but you too, about the ideas of forgiveness and how that gets couched in everyday life and being free to forgive, and being generous with forgiveness. Was there a part of you, or maybe a huge part of you, or just every part of you, that when he says at the end, he goes, "Forgive me," that you were just like, no, I don't want to. Like
100%. But I had a whole thought process there of like, he's like, "Forgive me." I'm like, no. And then I thought, wait, is that the symbiote, or is that the canon asking for forgiveness? Because if it's the symbiote, I'm not interested in his forgiveness. You know,
right.
That's total deathbed confessional. You know, it's like, oh shoot, now that it's all apart. No, dude, literally 4 minutes ago, you were trying to murder everybody here.
Right.
But if it was the canon asking for forgiveness, I'm kind of all in for that. He said, I am. He said, and this, you know, here we go. He says, had I not seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed. And that, right, that's such a huge part of the story after the resurrection in the Gospels.
Sure.
Thomas, right? We call him Doubting Thomas, because he's like, until I see him, until I put my finger into his wounds, I will not believe that he's back. And then Jesus does show up. He's like, yeah, here, go. Yep, see, there I am. And we use that, you know, to this day as like that, you know, thing of faith. You know, do you have to see it? Well, he did. Canon saw it and immediately was like, oh, shoot, I was wrong. Up to that point in his life, he had no reason to think he was wrong. I think that's a thing that's difficult in episodes like this, is we can watch it. In fact, I'll say we and Captain Kirk can watch it, because in a big way, this was a TOS episode of, hey, we're going to come to this planet. We're going to completely rip your society apart and then tell you to shut it down, and we're going to leave.
Right.
But they're going to come in and look at this and be like, yeah, this is messed up. It's not okay. But when they were asking him about his ring, that really cool ring he had that activated the satellite or the whatever that was doing.
They never really explained that, did they?
Not at all. And you know what? That's okay.
Didn't need it. Yeah.
Don't need it. If this was made today, they would, because you have to explain everything now.
Sure.
Don't need it. He's got a ring. It does a thing. It's probably some Gould something. But what's important about that ring is it had been passed down through generations. So we know that this society has been in place for at least 1,000 years, according to Daniel, probably more. So at that, I mean, when you have a literal monster walking through your village, scooping people up and saying that they're the devil, you're going to believe that's the devil. Like, there it is. And so the canon was doing his job. Now, he, like many people who are given that kind of power, totally let it go to his head, right? Was clearly making some choices that were self-serving or whatever. But at the end, when he saw that he was wrong, maybe that was him asking for forgiveness. And Simon was on it. You want forgiveness? Here it is. When he was saying that at the end, he was saying the prayer. I had flashbacks to passing through Gethsemane from Babylon 5, where it's just like, yeah, you go, and when you ask for that forgiveness, you get it, and as we've talked about many times, you get it, maybe not right away, but you get it. Simon was all about giving it. I was way into this episode all the way until the end. Not the very end, but like just before the end.
Mm-hmm.
They show up. Unas is down on the ground, his green blood. He's, out. Cannon's over there like, oh my goodness. And he's like, oh yeah, his wounds were too bad. So like he hit dude and then he died. And I'm like, seriously? He bled out? That's it? We needed Thor's hammer to take out James Earl Jones Unas.
Yeah.
Couple staff shots and he bleeds out and we don't even get to see it. I was really upset by that.
That makes me sad you pushed that through, because you know who was the Unas in this one?
Huh.
Or at least the voice. It was Chris Judge.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Man.
So we needed Thor's hammer for James Earl Jones's Unas, but for Chris Judge's Unas, just
couple staff shots. And the thing is too, like, wouldn't a staff cauterize your wounds right away? Not important. We won't go into that. I don't see a lot of value there. But I was just like, really? He's gonna die just like that? That's this horrible, scary thing. And I don't know. I was that took a lot of the wind out of the sails in this one for me. But up to that point, and the very end of it, I really enjoyed it. We've dived in a little bit already, but Brent, were there any sci-fi messages that you were able to pull out of this one?
So, Jeff, way back when I was doing speech and other things, no, I had a professor of mine who basically taught us how to deliver speeches, sermons, whatever, with great conviction. One of the things he said was, you should always have a cannon shot for the heart. And a lot of times when you listen, people don't have the cannon shot for the heart. It's more like they just pick up like a handful of pebbles and they just sort of throw them at you and see what happens. As far as messages go, I feel like this is more of the pebbles that got thrown at me, more than just here's the message they were going for. That being said, I did pull some out of here. There's one right at the very beginning. Jack says, and by the way, I want to run these through the litmus test of hope for a better future, mirror to society, and how can we be better humans to each other?
As we do. Yep.
Right. Kind of that's the litmus test I'm using. So Jack says, how long have these people been like this? 1,000 years? That's long enough. We have the power to help these people, and we should. And then he turns to the guy and he goes, do you want us to help? I don't know how much I'm on the train of we have the power to help, and so we should, or we have an obligation to. We have that idea. This is an idea certainly that was around when I was a kid growing up. Like, hey, if you see somebody getting beat up, you don't do anything about it, that's on you, and you're just as guilty as the other person. I don't know that I'm actually with that these days. I get the idea, but I don't think that's as hard, fast rule. But I love what Jack did next. He said, I can help you. We can help do this. I'm here ready and available to help. Do you want my help? I appreciated that. The sideways side of that is he's asking one guy to ask for help on behalf of everybody else out there, and a guy who actually didn't have the authority to say that.
Yeah, minutes after he asked him, he's like, oh, that guy, he's our spiritual leader over there.
Okay, and then he asked that guy, and the guy was like, no, and he goes, and Jack just ran and goes, okay, let's go home. Now, the rest of the episode still had to happen, so obviously they didn't go home. I believe that's when we got the little ringy thingy. But still, at least being ready to offer help when it is within your capacity to do so, and then ask. Like, I think that's really the great that, like, ask, like, do you want me to help? And if not, the answer, like, giving people the ability to say no is huge.
Massive.
So there's that one. I like this one, talking about a mirror to society. Oh, Jeff. It's hard to watch this and not think of a mirror to society, whether present day society or even past day society, but a total abuse of power by people in charge. I'm not even going to limit it to the Christian and Catholic Church. I'm just going to show it to everything. Abuse of power by the people in charge. He tells the guy at one point, basically, he's like, look, if you don't do what I want you to do, the next time they come around, I can't protect you. In other words, you're going to be one of the ones to go off, and I'm going to make sure that you go. If you don't do what I tell you to do.
Filthy.
That's so dirty. But how often does that happen?
Oh yeah.
If you don't play like this, then you're never going to be a part of this again, or whatever. I've been in those shoes before. Maybe not with so many words, but certainly an abuse of power in that. And I mean, I think we can certainly think of thousands of times through history when people have abused their power.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think when you're a victim to stuff like that, you tend to see it more clearly and earlier than people. Anyway, but then this one, this might have actually been my favorite one. How can we be better humans to each other? I'll list it under that one. At the very end, the cannon's been taken over, and then he's been shot, and he says, "Forgive me." Was it the Gould? Was it Cannon? Does it really even matter? And Simon does, even though he had every right not to. He had every right not to. He had every right to be like, no. I got to be honest. I want him to say no every single time I'm watching. Like, nope, not for you, not for you, Londo. Not gonna happen. But then he, in an amazing set of maturity, goes, yes, I will forgive you, knowing that guy right there is about to die. There's nothing he can do to redeem himself, pay him back. That's the idea of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the irredeemable can be redeemed, because there's nothing that they can do to be redeemed. They have to be redeemed by another. They have to be forgiven by another.
Yeah.
Like I said, a lot of throwing pebbles.
Good pebbles.
No big, like, was any of that what they were trying to go for? I don't know that you can do a living religion and not show stuff like this and not want to put stuff like that on TV. But was there anything? What do they all amalgam to? I'm going to give them one chevron each. 3 chevrons for me for this episode.
That works. They're good pebbles. They weren't driven home or anything. It's just kind of there, and that works. Three's a good. That's very generous. It's good.
It's very generous, he says. Well, Jeff, my job, my friend, is to rate these episodes. It is your job to rank these episodes in our 100% completely accurate and definitive ranking of season 3 of Stargate SG-1. This is episode 8. You have 7 on the list so far. That order of 7 at the top of the list is fair game. Going down, number 2 is learning curve. Number 3 is into the fire. 4 is legacy. 5 is Dead Man's Switch. I'll go ahead and round out the last 2. Point of View coming in at number 6, and Seth coming in at number 7. Jeff, where are you placing in our ranking this episode?
Brent, we have a new top 5 coming up.
Ooh.
Until the very end of this episode.
Oh.
And it all kind of fell apart for me. That Unis dying the way that it died just really killed it for me. This is going to be our new number 6, right under Dead Man's Switch.
Fair enough. I don't disagree with that one in the least. Not in the least at all. All right, Jeff. Well, with that, I guess there's only one more bit of business to do. That's it for the end of Demons. We're officially done with that. Moving on to the next episode. Would you like to know what that episode is titled?
Yeah, let me know.
All right. Make a guess. Here's the title. Rules of Engagement.
Rules of Engagement. SG-1 is going to go to a planet. That's my prediction. No, they're going to go to a planet. They're going to do something wrong, essentially, and they're going to come back. Hammond has to, lock him up. There'll be some sort of an investigation, something like that. That in the end turns out everything was fine, but this is going to be more. We're heading back to the SGC, and not going to spend a lot of time on another planet. Just maybe they won't even see it. They'll go in, they'll come back out, or maybe the episode will start with them coming back in the SGC. And Jack's just like, yep, it all fell apart, whatever. And Hammond's like, yeah, I got to lock you up. And then they're going to go over the rules of engagement.
I'm not speaking one bit to the quality of this episode. In fact, I'd say this episode fits perfectly in season 3, right where it is. It is one that I tend to like a lot, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like, again, I'm not speaking to the quality of the episode. This is just a Brent, like, for whatever reason, this episode tickles my fancy. Like, I dig it.
All right.
I don't know how other people feel about it. I don't know how the fandom as a whole, but I don't mind saying that. Anyway, I don't usually give you that, but I do enjoy this next episode a bit. All right, Jeff, with that, that's going to do it for us right now on Stargate SG-1 for the first time. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining us out there. Please be sure to like, subscribe, rate, share with somebody that you know who loves Stargate, or like my good friend Jeff over there needs to get into it. You're amazing. You're awesome. Thank you so much. It's time to get out of here. Until next time, folks. See you.
Hey, Brent.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I'm looking at some of the credits here now that we're done watching. I'm looking at some stuff. I had no idea that Lady Gaga was involved in this episode.
What? She was involved in this episode?
Yeah. Unas, 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 unas.
For crying out loud.